I have seen more battles lost by hesitation than by miscalculation. More ground surrendered by silence than by surrender. More men defeated by the moment they waited than by the sword itself. Delay is not neutral. It is not passive. It is not the absence of decision. Delay is a declaration. It is a message you send to the battlefield and to the enemy that you are unsure. And doubt is the first scent of blood. No commander with clarity delays. No warrior with vision waits. No leader who understands terrain stands still while the enemy moves. Because the terrain never waits. The timing never pauses. The opportunity does not ask if you are ready. It simply arrives, and then it leaves. There is a rhythm to war, a beat to conflict, a pulse to movement. And when that beat arrives at your doorstep, even a breath too late is betrayal. I do not speak of rash action. I speak of readiness. I speak of the moments when the path is clear, but you hesitate. When the troops are aligned, but you ask for one more signal. When the enemy is exposed, but you wait for permission. In those moments, the battle is already lost. You may not see it yet. But like a delayed order in the middle of a charge, the consequence echoes. One man waits, another panics. One flank stutters, the formation breaks, and by the time you move too late. The wise do not seek perfect conditions. They seek alignment. They know that action is not the final step. It is the first blow that carves the rest. I have trained men who thought waiting was wisdom. They confused caution with calculation. They thought silence was strategy. But silence, at the wrong time, is permission for the enemy to strike first. And those who wait are those who bury the dead. You do not win by being ready. You win by acting at the moment when the battlefield whispers, now. Not when you are prepared, not when you are confident, but when the gap opens, when the angle presents, when the enemy stumbles. And those moments do not shout, they whisper. They flicker like candlelight, easy to miss, gone in an instant. You either move, or you watch that moment harden into regret. I have never feared the enemy who acts. I fear the hesitation within my own ranks, because doubt spreads faster than fire, and delay is its first spark. One missed moment becomes two. One late decision becomes habit. And soon, a once sharp blade becomes dull from disuse. You are not here to observe the war. You are here to shape it, strike it, command it. The moment you delay, you surrender control. Not just of the outcome, but of the frame, the tempo, the direction. And once you lose tempo, you fight on their terms. You answer to their rhythm. You bleed to their plan. In war, control is seized by the first to act with clarity, not the first to act in panic, not the first to act in fear, but the first to move without contradiction between intention and execution. The world rewards movement aligned with insight, but it punishes insight without motion. That punishment comes in silence, in chances that do not return, in rivals who are not better, just faster. In battles you were meant to win, but chose to wait. You think delay protects you, but delay only insulates your fear. It hides the wound, but never heals it. Move, before the ground beneath you belongs to someone else. I have never once seen hesitation sharpen a sword. It does not reinforce the shield. It does not buy time, it sells it. And once sold, time cannot be reclaimed. The warrior who delays does not pause the battle. He simply removes himself from it. And while he stands frozen in contemplation, the world redraws itself without him. The enemy does not wait for your courage to return. The enemy does not pause for your alignment to settle. The enemy moves, not because he is stronger, but because you stood still. And standing still is not stillness. Stillness is awareness. Stillness is composed readiness. But delay is internal collapse masked as patience. Those who call it timing are often disguising fear. Those who name it preparation are often hiding indecision. The battlefield sees through both. A general must know this. The longer you delay, the less your decisions belong to you. Soon, every option you once had begins to vanish, not because they were defeated, but because they expired. Opportunity is not an obedient servant. It arrives on its own terms. It demands your presence, not your perfection. Perfection is the great seducer of the hesitant. You wait until the plan feels flawless, until every variable is known. And while you polish your strategy, the map beneath your feet is changing. By the time your strategy is complete, it fits a world that no longer exists. War does not honor the perfect plan. It honors the timely strike. I would rather march with half a plan and full conviction than stand with a perfect plan and a divided mind. Because the arrow that pierces is the one loosed with certainty, not the one studied for so long it rots in the quiver. Understand this. The battlefield rewards initiative, not speed for speed's sake, but decisive, aligned, irreversible action. The moment you hesitate, your opponent sees it, not always with his eyes, but with his instincts. He senses it in the rhythm, in the break of motion, in the pause of your breath. And that is when he advances, because war is not won in the clash. It is won in the space between decisions. And in that space, there is no neutral ground. You either seize it or you concede it. Even in conversation, even in negotiation, even in silence, the one who hesitates signals surrender, not always in words, but in posture, in tone, in the slight retreat of presence. Power does not tolerate delay. It is claimed by presence. And presence is action made visible. You do not need more strength. You need fewer excuses. You need a mind that moves when the moment does, not after, not tomorrow, now. This is not about impulse. It is about clarity. Clarity is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to act in its presence, to know the risk, to see the edge, and step forward anyway. The coward waits for the fear to leave. The warrior walks with it. And the general moves before the army is entirely ready. Because readiness is not perfection. It is the alignment of mind and movement. Delay fractures that alignment. It tells your army, wait. It tells your enemy, strike. It tells yourself, I am not ready. But you are. You were made ready the moment you saw clearly. So move, not recklessly, but relentlessly, not in haste, but in force, not with desperation, but with direction. Every second you hesitate adds weight to the enemy's sword and removes strength from your own. I do not tell you to rush. I tell you to remove what slows you, to move not faster, but cleaner, to act not louder, but sharper. Every general must learn this truth. The clearest moment is not the one that lasts. It is the one that arrives, flickers, and disappears. Those who act within it bend the war. Those who wait for it to last lose it. I have watched empires fall by inches, not by fire, not by flood, but by meetings that took too long, by messengers who waited till dawn, by generals who hesitated at the crest of the hill. They saw the opportunity, they felt the pressure, they knew the direction, but they waited for the storm to calm, and by the time they moved, the hill was no longer theirs to claim. The enemy knows. He does not have to defeat you. He only has to outweight you. He lets you second guess, lets you delay, lets you plan beyond the point of action. And while you prepare, he repositions. While you assess, he surrounds. While you delay, he decides. In the art of war, there are windows. They are not doors. They do not swing wide open and hold. They open like a blade slicing wind. You must pass through them at the moment of cut. To move too soon is a mistake. To move too late is fatal. But to not move at all, that is treason against your own clarity. I trust the warrior who steps when his instinct aligns with the terrain. Not the one who asks for permission from fear, not the one who needs confirmation from the crowd, not the one who counts the number of watchers before acting. Delay is often dressed as consultation, but beneath it lies the rot of doubt. You do not need more opinions, you need direction, and the discipline to follow it the moment it emerges. Discipline is not only in action, it is in the timing of it. It is in striking while the insight is still hot, before doubt cools it into ashes. The world is full of warriors who knew what to do, but the battlefield only remembers those who did it. You do not rise by knowing, you rise by moving, and the moment you delay, you begin to sink. Momentum is life in war, not the chaos of running, but the quiet current of consistent, sharp movement. Delay breaks momentum. It clogs the arteries of motion. It turns a flowing river into a swamp. You must remain fluid, not in thought, but in strike, not in theory, but in command. Hesitation builds a wall around the target. Every second you wait, the fortress grows, the path narrows, the enemy fortifies, and soon what was open is now a siege. But it did not have to be. The gate was open, you simply delayed. There is a danger more subtle than any sword, the illusion of safety in waiting. It feels like protection. It sounds like wisdom. It dresses itself as maturity. But the truth is this: delay is decay. It is the slow erosion of intent, the silent death of clarity, the rot that begins at the edge of a strong mind and moves inward. I have seen leaders who once led with fire grow cold by calculation, not because they lost their strength, but because they began to worship the perfect moment, and the perfect moment never came. So they watched, and waited, and wondered, and by the time the world shifted, it no longer needed them. Understand, the battlefield respects sharpness, not perfection, and sharpness is earned not in planning, but in striking. Steel is not sharpened in delay, it is sharpened by contact. I do not ask you to be reckless. I ask you to be real, to see that the longer you hesitate, the more you train your body to sit still when it should stand, the more you teach your mind to pause when it should pursue, and the more you tell the world, I will act later. Later is where regret lives. Later is where momentum dies. Later is the field of the fallen. A single act of hesitation seems small, but it compounds. Every moment you hold back becomes a thread, and enough threads will wrap you in a rope. One day you will try to move, and find yourself bound, not by the enemy, but by your own delays. Even in peace, delay poisons the self. You delay the words that should be spoken, the forgiveness that should be given, the discipline that should begin today. You delay the habit, the choice, the move. And every delay becomes a distance between you and the life that was within reach. This is war, even when it wears the clothes of ordinary days. Because in every day, there is a moment that calls for movement, and the one who hears it and moves gains ground. Even a small step, taken now, carries more weight than a perfect leap that never comes. The world shifts for those who move with the moment. It hardens against those who miss it. The general who hesitates does not just lose the battle. He teaches his men to doubt. And doubt spreads faster than courage, because courage must be fed. But doubt grows on nothing. It feeds on delay alone. This is why the one who delays declares defeat before the first blow lands. Not because the enemy is stronger, not because the terrain is wrong, but because the spirit has already retreated. Victory is forged in the instant, the moment when thought becomes command, when vision becomes motion, when readiness becomes strike. And that moment does not wait for you. I do not teach speed, I teach precision. But you must understand, precision without action is a blade that never leaves its sheath. The enemy fears not your thoughts. He fears your movement. He watches your feet more than your face, because your words may lie, but your actions always speak. You can fool yourself with promises, with rehearsed intentions, with the comfort of saying, soon. But the battlefield writes no record of intentions, only of outcomes. And outcomes are shaped by those who move while others wait, by those who strike while others blink, by those who do not wait for certainty, but act from clarity. Certainty is a myth, the fearful chase. Clarity is what the disciplined obey. Do not mistake the silence before action as fear, unless that silence has no limit. Then it is no longer composure, it is corrosion. I have walked through camps where soldiers sharpened blades they would never draw. I have passed through cities where leaders drafted speeches they would never give, where parents promised time they would never make, where minds whispered dreams that were always one day too early or one day too late. That is how empires rot, not in fire, but in delay. You lose nothing by acting when the window opens, but you risk everything by waiting for it to widen, because it rarely does. It narrows until it disappears. Opportunity has no loyalty. It belongs to no man. It stays for no one. It arrives like wind across the ridge. You either sail with it or you are left behind. A general who acts too late is no longer a general. He is a historian, explaining why the past unfolded as it did. This world does not wait for those who wait. It honors those who act with full presence, not because they are fearless, but because they are loyal to the moment. And loyalty to the moment is rare. Most are loyal to fear, to approval, to delay disguised as strategy. But when the fire comes, the only loyalty that matters is the one between decision and action. Shorten that distance, and you shorten the war. You do not need more courage. You need less distance between your knowing and your doing, because that space, that tiny pause, is where battles are lost. If your instinct says move, do not ask it for a speech. Move, because hesitation is not safety. It is the start of surrender. I have never feared the strong. I have feared the quiet. The one who does not blink, who does not flinch, who does not announce, only acts. Because that one understands what most never learn. There is no reward for waiting to feel ready. Readiness is a decision. It is claimed, not discovered. You do not become ready by preparing endlessly. You become ready by declaring now and acting in accordance with that declaration. Every war I've survived, I survived because I moved. Not always first, not always fastest, but always with precision when the window opened. And there is always a window. The world does not hide its chances. It only hides them from the untrained eye, the one too busy doubting to see, too busy thinking to feel the shift. And so I trained my senses, not just my sight, but my silence, to feel the pressure build, to read the breath of the terrain, to sense the enemy's fear before his sword moves, and then to strike, not because I wanted to, but because the moment demanded it. There is a violence in timing that few respect, an elegance in decisive motion, not brash, not loud, just clean, like the drawing of a blade that was always meant to be drawn. Those who delay speak often of uncertainty, of needing one more signal. But the truth is, they've already seen enough. They are simply arguing with their own instinct. And instinct does not shout, it leaves. Once it goes quiet, you are left with noise. And in noise, no clarity survives. So I move when it is quiet, when the edge appears, when the enemy breathes too deep, when the sun is in the right place, when the line bends, just slightly. Because that is the rhythm of victory. A song too quiet for the crowd, but clear to those who are still enough to feel it. And once felt, you do not wait. You advance. Because nothing on the battlefield is still for long, not even opportunity. Especially not opportunity. The general who waits for the full map never leaves camp, and dies with a perfect plan never tested. That is not my fate. That is not yours. If you are to lead, you must act. If you are to win, you must move. Delay is a declaration, and what it declares is this: I am unsure. I will wait. I do not yet command. Erase that declaration. Replace it with motion, with precision, with execution. There is no nobility in the waiting. Only in the war you are willing to enter, fully awake, fully responsible, and fully now. You may think stillness is safer, that waiting keeps you from mistakes. But mistakes are not born in motion. They are born in hesitation. Because a strike can be corrected, a movement refined. But a delay, once past, leaves nothing to sharpen, only to bury. Every warrior who survives long enough understands this. Regret has a longer memory than failure. Failure teaches, regret haunts, and regret is the child of delay. I do not fear being wrong. I fear being absent. Absent from the moment I was meant to command. Absent from the strike that would have turned the tide. Absent because I questioned when I should have moved. You cannot see this if you are still clinging to comfort. Comfort whispers that tomorrow is wiser, but tomorrow is not yours. Only now is, and it is shrinking. Every breath you take while holding back costs you ground, costs you presence, costs you trust in yourself and from others. Because your people feel it. They feel the stall in your voice. They feel the pause in your orders. They feel the crack in your conviction. And conviction, once cracked, crumbles fast. It spreads like wind through grass. You cannot contain it once it begins. That is why a general must be swift in spirit, not rash, not frantic, but sharp. He must cut through his own noise, through the need for reassurance, through the crowd of inner voices that ask, "What if?" He must answer them with silence, and then movement. I have known warriors who defeated armies with less strength, less men, and less time, but more will, more precision, more loyalty to the moment. They were not the loudest, not the most praised, but when the window opened, they were already inside it. That is the difference. That is the margin between remembered and forgotten. Not who was more gifted, but who moved when it mattered. The one who delays may live to tell the tale, but not as the victor, only as the witness. And war does not honor the witness. It honors the one who stepped forward even when the ground shook, even when the voice trembled, even when the outcome was unclear. But the next step was. That next step is your responsibility, not to be perfect, but to be taken. Now, I have seen what delay steals. It does not just rob you of victories. It robs you of becoming the kind of person who wins. Because every time you wait when you should act, you teach your spirit to obey fear. You train your instincts to soften. you dull your own edge. And soon, you are not delaying a decision. You are delaying who you could have been, not just on the battlefield, but in the quiet wars of everyday life. The moment to speak, the moment to leave, the moment to change, the moment to begin. You know these moments. They appear like sparks, fleeting, simple, clear. And still, you waited. Because you told yourself, I need more time. I need more proof. I need the fear to go away first. But that is not how war works. That is not how life works. Fear does not leave. Time does not extend. Opportunity does not knock again. It passes. And with it, so does the version of you that was ready. Delay is not harmless. It is the quiet assassin of your growth. And every time you let it win, you strengthen the enemy within. So if you hear this now, if you feel the pull, do not delay. Make the move, draw the line, speak the truth, take the step. Not when it's easy, not when you're applauded, but when it counts, and it always counts more than you think. This is your terrain now, and it is waiting for your presence, not your hesitation, not your fear, not your future self, you. Now, because the moment you delay, you are no longer the commander. You are the consequence. And I was not born to be the consequence. I was born to move, to strike, to lead, and so were you.